The man with the burn scar is 100% Dragon. He rides in a black ship. The comment about him being in the Marines completely juxtaposes him being a revolutionary. His powers are most likely weather-based, and the quote, tattoo might be a burn scar or a tattoo made by searing his flesh. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Eiichiro Oda drew a lot of metaphorical fingers in this chapter, and each and every one of them is pointing at a dragon. Legitimately, he fits the criteria for everything mentioned, sort of. It is heavily implied that Dragon has some sort of weather manipulation power, ever since the Deus Ex Machina wind that appeared during Logtown, conveniently conjured to suit Dragon's assorted purposes. Then there was also that big burst of wind during Luffy's flashback that saved most of the Grey Terminal. So it's, like, I guess it's sort of soft confirmed. I mean, the only way we really get around it is if there's another Revolutionary Army member with that power. However, every other high-ranking member from Cyborg to Mascara Enthusiast are actually already in a committed relationship with their own magical fruit partners. And you really have to go all the way down to someone like Bunny Joe to find an available user. Plus, Dragon's ship is literally named after wind, and it's also named after Grandma. It's the Wind Grandma, and this doesn't really fit the bill, does it? The man marked by flames was described as having a completely black ship, and I don't know if this is one of those blue and black or gold and white dress scenarios, but what I see in this anime screenshot is a lot of plain old boring brown. With that said, you can't really trust the anime to confirm color schemes. Lest we all forget Marco's original colors in the anime, making him look much less like a fearsome phoenix and much more like an alcoholic impatiently waiting for his local bottle to open. To be fair to the anime, Oda had no finalized scheme in mind when they animated Marco. However, the same is not true of the Wind Grandma. If you look in the manga, Dragon's ship is pretty extraordinarily different. Completely black, almost as if it's coated in armament haki. And this isn't just a selective dramatic silhouette shot. Every time this ship appears, Oda has it coated in pitch black. This ship is unlike any other we've seen in the series. It's just not something we've necessarily cared about until now. So that's 2 out of 3 ticks in the old Dragon box. So what about our final feature? What about these alleged burn marks? Well, there's a very fun theory that's existed for a while now concerning Dragon's tattoo. Its meaning being non-existent for as long as we've known him, but a crack theory once stated that Dragon's tattoo is actually a burn scar, quite similar to the cross-hatching that occurs when you sear a steak on a grill, sort of like how the world nobles sear a brand into their slaves.
Give your meat a good old rub. That's it. Nice and hot. Hot and spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
So this tattoo may actually have another meaning that is supposed to mark and identify Dragon in some sort of way. But we should also note that Dragon has a preference for rather conservative fashion, always draping himself in as much fabric as he can get at any given time. When we're talking about modern day Dragon, that is. Back when he was younger, things were a bit looser and a bit more skin was on show, but this is of course pre-steak tattoo. But in the modern day, the only other part of Dragon's body that we've actually seen are his hands, which means that the rest of it could theoretically be completely covered in burn scars. And perhaps that's why no one makes the connection to Dragon, because he's kept his burn-based secret for so long. Well, no one except perhaps a certain Nico Robin. Our Straw Hat archaeologist made a bit of a knowing look when the burn scar man was mentioned, and this was before she knew that Jaguar Diesel had survived. Robin, of course, spent 2 years with the Revolutionary Army, so in theory, she spent more time with Luffy's dad than she has with Luffy. But as much as this makes for really fun conspiracy theory style connections, there are a lot of issues with this last thought in particular. One being that Robin didn't know what a road poneglyph was, so if Dragon did go so far as to reveal himself, perhaps even physically, she probably would have known what the things are, since he has one of the things, and since he would know that her quest is to find all of the things. Unless Dragon just refused to say anything for reasons, because I guess he is a very private man after all. It would be a good bit of tragic flashback bait, the story behind how Dragon got his scars. And convenient because it would finally link him to Luffy just by necessity. In the chapter review, I also mentioned the whirlpool that Luffy got caught up in chapter 2, and I just want to say that logistically, Dragon could have been there. The entirety of East Blue takes place over approximately 7 days. So even if Dragon wasn't right there in chapter 2, he was still very close by in the grand scheme of things. But all of this is to say that Dragon has now become the leading candidate for Burn Scar Man. However, I personally hope that it's either a completely new character or a lurking legend that we've heard of but not yet seen. I'm mad that Law got saved. It's such a plot armor based escape too. So I will admit that Law's escape is a little bit BS, because the whole escape hinges on the idea that Law doesn't need to breathe, which I'm pretty sure he does. Also, I'm pretty sure that Beppo needs air as well. After looking it up, apparently the longest polar bear dive recorded was 3 minutes and 10 seconds, during which time the bear covered a distance of roughly 50 meters, so I imagine it was swimming quite casually. But even if Beppo was some sort of super bear, which he is, the Blackbeard pirates have the power of boat, as well as teleportation actually, so it's very difficult to explain the logistics of how a single polar bear could possibly outrun them if he had to constantly come up for air. You can't even argue that Law used his devil fruit like a bubble, a World Noble-esque bubble around his head, because he's submerged in seawater, completely prone and powerless, But also, I don't care. Weirder things have happened, many weirder things, and I will never die on the hill that One Piece needs to be realistic. And you know what? Even if I did die on that hill, Oda would just resurrect me. I think the defeat of the Heart Pirates is less permanent than that of the Kid Pirates. The translation I read said they were defeated as opposed to the Kid Pirates being destroyed. So I wouldn't linger too much on the specific words that the narrator uses, especially because this comment was made before the official translation came out. And what we never do is hyper-analyze language based on scans. However, the thing that makes me think the Heart Pirates will reform as a crew are Beppo's words. The whole idea of trusting in the crew, and the most important thing is to save the captain. Beppo here is planting the narrative of hope that will eventually grow into another little Heart Pirate tree, whereas we did not get that with the Kid Pirates. They were very coldly and matter-of-factly dismissed. There was no hope. There was no shot of Killer going, we need to save the captain or anyone or anything or doing anything. Nothing. They did nothing except piss themselves in scarlet-drenched fear. But also, we as readers have a connection to the Heart Pirates. Law, Beppo, Penguin, Shachi, Jean Bart, and the rest of them. Like this guy, the guy in the mask. Apparently his name is Hakugan. I knew that at one point. But the actual point is that we have a connection to this crew. Whereas pretty much every member of the Kid Pirates is the equivalent of Hakugan. Most of them have never even been shown in the actual series, just very quick sketches by Oda, who followed those sketches up by saying it wasn't necessary to remember any of them. So that's why I think the Heart Pirates will eventually reform, but it won't be in any capacity to actually contend for the One Piece anymore. I'm afraid Luffy could meet similar fate as Law and Kid in Egghead Island. I mean, the rule of threes is looming pretty scarily over Egghead Island right now, especially with all of the Sabadi parallels, because Sabadi didn't end well. I mean, actually, that's not true. Sabadi didn't end well for the Straw Hats. The crew was beaten and separated. Thinking about it, it did end very well for Law and Kid, who just got on with it and continued sailing. So maybe this arc is the reverse of that. Things end very well for the Straw Hats, and the Heart and Kid Pirates experience the Sabadi-style obliteration. So this might be a crazy thought, but I actually think that the Straw Hats are the ones facing the most overwhelming odds. They might not be going directly against an emperor, but there is a fleet twice the size of Marineford all gunning for Egghead Island, with an admiral to deal with, the attention of the Five Elder Stars, a traitor in some of the Blackbeard pirates. With all of that, it could happen. The Straw Hats being defeated is not unprecedented, and maybe this could be one final stumble before the sprint towards the end. But the one thing I absolutely cannot see is the Sunny going down. It's too symbolic of status in the Pirate King race. The flagship absolutely cannot go down, which I think means that we will definitely be escaping. I love the fact that Blackbeard and Luffy see things in life almost the same. For both, being a pirate means first being free, and the first thing they do when they see a strange guy next to them is to try to recruit him just because. Yeah, Blackbeard often has very Luffy-like responses. The whole, why fight when we can just drink and do assorted partying? It's fair to say that Blackbeard is a lot more strategic than Luffy though. Mr. Cherry Pie sees a loose admiral, and so he is eager to add it to the pirate toolbox, whereas Luffy would see a rogue admiral and not care at all. The criteria for joining his crew is about personality, not power. And speaking of the former, I really hope we see more of the Blackbeard pirates interacting in the future. As horrific as they are both morally and aesthetically, this flashback really humanized them a lot. And I think we need that from our final group of antagonists. In a perfect world, I don't want to see them as just generically evil caricatures. Because if this crew is going to be the final hurdle for Luffy becoming the Pirate King, then I want them to have super strong stories and reasons for making it this far, just like the Straw Hats do. I want the Blackbeard pirates to have dreams and ambitions beyond just doing bad things for the sake of enjoying the bad things they do. I do think that might be a bit of an ask though, just mathematically, because there's 10 Titanic captains, right? Even if each of them got a King-style one-chapter character showcase, that's 10 chapters. And 10 chapters in this day and age is about a quarter of an entire year just spent investigating the Blackbeard pirates at a surface level. So I'm really not sure if all of them are going to be fleshed out in the actual series. The implications of the rumble ball working with a mink is huge. Quite literally huge, yes, because this makes them bigger. I think the best part of this section though was showcasing the massive weakness of the Blackbeard pirates. Being a crew of exclusively devil fruit users, they can't do anything in water. So even something as simple as swimming is a hard counter to them. An interesting thing, but I think Garp's attack is a reference to the Great Blue Hole, which is a marine sinkhole in Central America. And so it is, here is the Great Blue Hole in question, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Oda took this as direct inspiration for the attack. In all seriousness, at this stage in One Piece, Oda may be a global authority on nautical phenomena, because to create this world, he has had to study and take inspiration from every crazy marine feature this world has to offer. Like when they were diving down to Fishman Island, and Oda went into this crazy presentation of underwater currents that just went completely over my head at first. Curious to think where Beppo would be taking Law. How far and what island can they make it to without a ship? Happy to know that Law lives though. So this is pretty interesting because we're in a unique situation here, because we actually know what the closest islands are. One option could be swimming back to Wano, although that's probably quite difficult because Law purposely picked the island furthest away from Wano in order to gain more ground on his rivals. But with this funky little map we were given, the closest confirmed location to Winter Island that we know of is Elbaf. So there's even potential for Beppo to swim all the way there and then Law and Kid could meet in the water. But obviously we shouldn't judge anything from an overly simplistic map. However, Elbaf is almost certainly closer to Winter Island than Wano or Egghead. Although somewhere in this cluster it's implied that Hachinosu is quite close by, because Garp and his Garplings reached the island in a matter of hours after departing the G14 base, which is very close to Egghead Island. Which actually means that Law himself has made it this far in the New World before, because he was part of the Rocky Port incident. So he went to Hachinosu, farmed some pirates, and then set sail all the way back to Punk Hazard to plot revenge on a flamingo. Meanwhile, a much bolder decision would be for Beppo to push forward and go on into the unknown, to continue the journey. Because in One Piece, we almost never go backwards, despite the fact that I just said that Law went backwards that one time. But that was still forward to us because we hadn't gotten that far. So I look forward to seeing what becomes of Law as we turn our full attention to Luffy, the last remaining relevant member of the Kaido extermination team.